So that challenges and hurdles we'll talk later. But to begin with, we need to be very very focused upon the human media. In fact, I would suggest that for any entrepreneur, you become jack of all trade and master of none. That's one of the good sign to have, good problem to have. So in management, we have learned that you need not to become jack of all trade. But here, for an entrepreneur, it is very much required. You never know what is going to be inside. Just now over a tea session, we were discussing with people, and people were saying that for an entrepreneur, it is the biggest challenge to hire people. How are you going to hire them? What is it that you're going to convince them? What is lucrative for them? What is in it for them? How are you going to make them convinced that why would someone will join after leaving Tech Mahindra and join a startup which is just have a blue chip, not a very blue chip name in the market. It's just a experience which you'll have. So it is better that you understand, you learn all of those things into bits and pieces, but you learn those things. And whenever time comes, you can obviously through the paid medium part, you can go, you can set your goal, you can set your objectives, and then basis that you can go and reach out to all of your consumers. So two things categorically here is that for any of the entrepreneurship, it is very much essential that you learn every bit of everything, be it operations, be it supply chain, be it business development, be it marketing, be it digital marketing strategy or any strategy, everything. Please learn all of those things. Second is, which is very critical, that don't play with your own media. Make it very strong as you can. Follow people on Facebook who are the influencers in the market. Identify them, follow them, engage with them, tweet them, write something about them, and that's how gradually you will move. I would like to end here, but I am sure in the next session we can have more discussion about this.
Sure. Thanks, Kumar.
Thank you.
And thanks a lot for, I think he's basically focused on the need for to go back to the first principles, think about what is it that you are really selling, and then make sure that you get your basics right on getting the site and the other your own media, and also making sure that that you are starting in the right way. And just to share experience on that hiring part, I think that's really. So there was a time when I think for like 6 or 7 consecutive years I never had any of my offers ever declined by a candidate, and over those years nobody ever left our shoes. And now it's difficult to get somebody. You try and make an offer, and when people join, it's difficult to get them to stay. So very pertinent. Okay, so I think let's move on, and I'd like to welcome Mr. Anurag and share his experiences from his vast corporate experience.
Okay, thanks Vipul, thanks Abhinay. Well, since my current set of experience is more around the working with customers who have their, let's say, marketing strategies, but what I didn't put in my the profile which I sent is the standard profile which we send to our customers. So what I did put is that I also was the heading marketing for Pero in India for about 2 years, about 10 years back. But of course we didn't have so much of digital then, apart from other interesting corporate experiences. One thing that really resonated is, I think we're all in sync, is that go back to basics. What we start as first principles. The keywords in digital and marketing are not so much digital but marketing. The basics of marketing doesn't change. You would have all studied the OPs, 5 Ps, now 7 Ps, and you can add as many Ps as you want, right? You can add technology to that. The basics of marketing will not change. I mean, your customer, who's your customer? Customer segmentation, is it a B2B you're looking at or a B2B to start with? And then from there on, your entire the marketing strategy itself will change. What you will leverage as an entrepreneur is why digital. The question we should ask is why digital. We all know there is an advantage, but one inherent advantage that digital gives you is a word which is often used. I don't know how many of you are really aware of it, or you would be. It's called frugal. How many of you have heard of the word frugal? You heard of a book called Frugal Engineering or Frugal? Just raise your hands. How many of you? Okay, one. What would you call frugal in Hindi? The equivalent. Jugaad. What else? Anybody else? Sasta Sundar Tikau. Right? So for an entrepreneur, but it works, it should work, it shouldn't fall apart like the board which did, right? I'm sure it was Tikau, I mean it was Sasta Sundar maybe but not Tikau, right? So the important part is that for an entrepreneur, why digital? Because it gives you an opportunity to do things in a frugal manner and be as effective. You talked about paid media and unpaid media. So there are a lot of levers there that you can pull from a vast repertoire of ever increasing open source freeware tools that or you could build or you could buy, but rather build and for leverage. That's where the digital part comes in. There's a whole spectrum of if you do a bit of research like I did, because I'm not an expert like the gentleman here on marketing or on the digital side, I'm coming from the outside, so I have to rely on good old Google for a bit of search which I did, or research I would like to call it, on what really digital marketing is all about. And I was left more confused than ever, because there is such a host of options there in digital marketing. You have SEO, you've got content management, you have user experiences, and there are a host of other terminologies which I am not using right now. I'm sure Anirban and such, they were to look at it. But the important part here is, one is basics don't change. Who's your customer? How do you segment? What are the customer needs? And how can you reach your customer? It's very important for a startup to get an anchor tenant or set of anchor tenants who will vouch for your product or your service. You come back and say, yes, this is a product or a service, and we were just talking about, I'm sure Sachin will give us a view on what we cannot in our age relate with is that as against Michael Jackson, a local DJ could be probably a more crowd puller in India than somebody else, and names that we wouldn't even hear of. So who is that anchor tenant and an anchor advocate who you can get, if possible for free, to advocate your product so that it reaches as many audiences, your target audiences, as possible. That is a very important part of your marketing strategy when you start up. I'm sure most of you would want to do a startup when you pass out of your MBA. How do you start? One is the standard, you identify a need or a niche or whatever and start up. But how do you reach the audience? The product or the service that you have, what attributes of that service would be highlighted, which would be differentiated? There has to be something new. Why would somebody buy a Me Too service from you? Just because it's cheap, it's not going to happen. So use frugal ways. Digital gives you opportunities to be frugal. It gives you opportunities to experiment, which in a traditional marketing approach would be very expensive. Because if you are rolling out a traditional marketing campaign, which is print or outdoor media, imagine having to print 100,000 billboards, and then just going before launching, you say, oh, by the way, I think we should change that. Frightfully expensive. Or after having, on an online digital media, still have, I would say, between the concept to reality or the concept to product, the life cycle is short, and you have an opportunity to innovate or change that. Of course, if your mistake is launched on the digital media, and I like, Avinash was saying, if you put up wrong billboards, you can pull all of them down. But your digital mistakes can stay there forever. That's, I think, one thing that we need to probably discuss. It's happened in the past. You made a mistake, it's been online, some search is going to dig that up 10 years later, maybe, to work to your disadvantage. That's a very careful thing. So those are a couple of the points. On the technology side, what I will do maybe after we've done a first round of everybody talking is, you would be aware, but I'll just pull up one or two charts to show the kind of technology options which are there, because you will have to leverage on the technology side. But what is really important is that you would need to understand which solutions, products, third-party products, organizations, or tools to leverage for your digital marketing campaign. But go back to the basics is what one of the things. Segment, different for B2B, different for B2C, your target audience would be different, the way you sell would be different, the need would be different, the decision-making cycles would be different, the drivers of your customers would be very different for these segments. The demographics, depending on the demographics, it will be very different. So those are some of the thoughts that I'll pass on to Sachin or to Anirban to take it forward, and then I can add probably to some of the thoughts.
got Anurag. So, two takeaways that I can take from this. One is, digital marketing is ultimately marketing. Don't forget that, right? Because you need to get your marketing right. Digital is a way to do it, and as Anurag believes, it's a cheaper way to do it. Like, Google and Facebook have been pretty successful in marketing their own, offerings. They think 50 billion, Google thinks 50 billion plus. So don't believe Anurag. That how much money Google and Facebook are making. So now, yeah, I mean, you got to be careful. If you play it right, it's